when whippoorwill call, and even this night, I hurry to my blue heaven. You turn to the right, you find a little bright light.
Welcome to episode number 9 of My Blue Heaven. We are just over 30 days away from round 1, that big game against the Tigers on a Thursday night at the MCG. We're 5 days away from a practice match at Icon Park against the Hawks. We're only a couple of weeks away from JLT. So what I'm going to do in this episode is have a look at a possible best 22 going into round 1. I did this exercise, if you remember, in episode 3 on Christmas Eve. Now what's happened since then, there's been quite a few injuries since then. I've had to make a few changes based on a number of aspects. So today we're just going to go through what I consider to be my best 22 going into that big game against the Tigers at the MCG. Okay, before I unload with this team, I think it's fair to say, from a supporter's point of view anyway, that there was a fair deal of frustration and quite a level of, I suppose, what would I call, anger at times. There's certainly perception that we rushed players back too early last year. They were underdone, weren't fit, came into the team, and ultimately they broke down in the first quarter. We were left with 3, sometimes only 2 on the bench. So hopefully getting Andrew Russell into the club. There's been a huge focus in this pre-season on fitness, not just physical fitness, but also preparing these players emotionally and mentally ready to play AFL football. So there's no rush. Blokes are underdone. They come through the Northern Blues. It's about getting them right. What we don't want to see this year is situations like we had last year. Brendan Bolton often talks about being able to endure, but let's get the players ready to go in terms of their physical strengths and also their mental capabilities of playing AFL football. All right, so if you're interested, go back to episode 3 and have a look at my team. But this is basically what it looked like on Christmas Eve. So from the back line, we had Simo, Jones, Marchbank, halfbacks Williamson, Wiedering, Newman. Across the centre line, Sam Walsh, Patrick Cripps and Zach Fisher. Sam Petrisky, Seaton, Charlie Curnow, Murphy across half forward. Full forward line, McGovern, McKay, Paulson. The rucks, Cruiser, Ed Curnow, Dow, and on the bench, Setterfield, Plowman for Solo and Kennedy. So let's start with the back line, leaving Simo there. Obviously without Doherty there, we're going to leave Simo there at this stage. Jones looks like he's recovered from his hand injury. He's training really well at the moment, so he stays at full back. Unfortunately, Callum Marchbank needs to go out of that team. Now, a little bit of a mystery. We know he has a back concern. There is no way possible that he's going to be ready for round 1. So at this stage, he goes out of the team. I'm going to replace him with Lockie Plowman, who has had his own injury concerns, but at this stage, he looks like he's tracking pretty well to play round 1. So he slots in pretty nicely in the back pocket. Across half back, originally I had Williamson, the exciting Tom Williamson, Jacob Wiedering and Newman. Wiedering and Newman stay there, but Tom Williamson, unfortunately, he just hasn't really got on the park since the new year, so he goes out of the team, which leaves us a little bit of a problem across half back. We've got a number of options, but at this stage, I'm going to go with the experience of Daisy Thomas. Maybe some will disagree with that. Now, obviously this year will be a year to maybe phase out Daisy Thomas and the impact he'll have on this team. But at this stage, I just think he gives us a little bit of experience across that half back line with Newman's run and carry, Wiedering there. I think Daisy's going to provide that experience. And also he's training really well. And for the first time, I reckon for about 3 or 4 years, he's probably the fittest he's ever been. Let's go to the centre line. Welsh stays, Cripps stays in the middle. Now what I'm going to do, there's been, particularly in match simulation, there's been a real focus on our young players moving through the midfield, and they've also experimented with Ed Curnow across half forward. So I'm going to move Ed to a half forward flank, pop Murph up onto a wing, and little Zachy Fisher is going to come onto the ball. So that gives us a pretty young but really exciting centre square combination of the grunt of Cripps. I reckon Dow in time is going to be our second best clearance player. He had 51 clearances last year, which was third at the club. And little Zachy Fishy, we know what he can do. And also Welsh and Murphy on the wings can provide that extra run through there. Across half forward, we now have Sam Petreski-Seaton will remain there, Charlie Curnow at centre half forward, and Ed Curnow across half forward. Now this is a really interesting one. Our best tackler in the club. This could be a new role for Ed Curnow, particularly early in the season. And I suppose I'll experiment with that a little bit in the practice match and also the JLT. Full forward line, McGovern seems to be back on track after that injury concern. McKay and Paulson. Paulson tracking really well to play round one in that forward pocket. Our ruck divisions. Now, watch your space with Matthew Cruiser. I was tempted to take him out, but at this stage, going to give him right up until a couple of weeks before the season starts. But I'm quite happy to replace Matthew Cruiser. There is no way that we're going to take Matthew Cruiser into a season this year. Not at 100%, or maybe even, look, he could be 95%, but we know his injury concerns. So Phillips will slot in perfectly in that ruck division if Matthew Cruiser looks like he's not going to come up. But at this stage, I've got Matthew Cruiser, Dow and Fisher as our on-ball brigade. That only leaves us with the three originally on the interchange bench, Setterfield for Solo and Kennedy. Unfortunately, Alex, you go out of the team. I know it's only a broken arm and you've been able to keep running, but at this stage, I don't think with your tackling pressure that you're going to be able to be fully fit by round one, so you go out. Onto the bench comes young Lockie O'Brien. He's had a fabulous pre-season, really unlucky not to be in that original team, so he fits in perfectly. He can come on as that extra midfielder across the centre line. Setterfield, O'Brien, Kennedy. It's a really, really strong midfield. We're building a really good young list. And Jack Silvani, who's having a terrific pre-season. We're going to have to see him in the practice match and also the JLT. He slots beautifully onto the bench. He can play a number of different roles, down back, up forward, and also can pinch hit through the midfield. Now, Michael Gibbons, also young Matthew Cottrell. How fantastic was to see those two young guys make it onto the list. So I've got here, okay, I've got my wild cards going into round one. Watch this space on the following players, and there's a couple of more. Michael Gibbons. Now, a lot of people say he is a lock for round one. I'd just like to see what he can provide before we consider him. Young Angus Shoemaker. Now, he's my wild card across half back. If Daisy doesn't come up or Plowman doesn't come up, this kid is tracking quite well. Has yet to play a senior game. David Cunningham's another one who was on the cusp last year, providing us with a lot of run and carry. Unfortunately, injury struck him down, but he's having a strong pre-season. So too, Jared Garlett. He showed some glimpses last year, but it was his work ethic which was the problem. But he's certainly had a strong pre-season. Phillips can come in for Cruiser. And Hugh Goddard, he just gives us a little bit of X-factor down back if one of these guys, Jones, Wiedering, Plowman, goes down. So Hugh Goddard is also certainly one to watch. So that is my team at this stage, going into round one against the Tigers at the MCG. Obviously, a lot can change, but to me, that looks like a pretty strong list as we quickly approach the start of the season. If you like these videos, please subscribe. Please give us some feedback. What are your thoughts going into the season and our best lineup? See you guys next time. Go Blue Boys.
That is where the roses bloom, just Molly and me, and the baby makes three. Be happy in my